Hi! Today I want to show you guys how to make the Simplicity shoulder dragons. I got this pattern a few weeks ago and I was really struggling with it. It was not easy for me and I couldn't find any sew-alongs for it. So I thought since I was able to do it that I would make a sew-along for anybody else who gets stuck. So this is what they end up looking like. This guy was my first attempt, and this one you'll see me making in the video. They're really cute. They just sit on top of your shoulder. I like to stick them on top of my machine, and they can actually stay there while I'm sewing. So I'm going to show you what you need, and then we'll get started. The pattern does say that you can use minke fleece. It moves around a lot, so for mine, I actually just used like cotton. And I was able to make this guy out of 2 fat quarters, so you really don't even need that much fabric. And he came out pretty good just out of cotton. I mean, if you wanted to use a fleece or a minke, you could. That's up to you. But I like how he came out with this material quite a bit. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure you get pattern Simplicity 8715. And then a nice piece of fabric that you want to use for your outside of your dragon. And my legs, they're two-toned. You don't have to do that. I just ran out of that color. You can do this project with 2 fat quarters. But I have my outside fabric, and I'm going to be using this for the belly fabric and the legs. You are going to want a little piece of interfacing, so you can make sure the eyes don't pop out on ya. And I had gotten these eyes from Amazon for like $12. That was a pretty good sale. You're going to want scissors, pins. You will want a needle so that you can do some hand stitching. And then matching thread. So we're just going to be doing A here. The simplest one, minus this piece. Mine, I just preferred just having the tip of the tail there. I thought it looked a little cuter. It's more simpler than these two. So for the cutout, you're going to need head piece 1, 2, body piece, the legs, which are 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then the belly. So they tell you right on them, cut 2, cut 2, cut 2. So go ahead and get those cut out. Okay, so what I like to do with mine is I will trace the pattern onto a lighter color fabric because you're not going to see this once it's all cut out. So I traced all of my pieces, and this is 2 pieces, so I can fold it and have to only cut it once. Like I said earlier with the feet, because they're 2 different colors, and again, you don't have to do that. If you choose to do that, you want to make sure that you cut your feet out in the 2 different colors. And this is a darker color, so I wasn't able to really trace it. So I just pinned them and I'll cut those. So I'm going to get all this cut out and we'll move ahead. Okay, so I have all my pieces cut out. So let's go ahead and take a look at the pattern instructions. Now this pattern is very complicated. So I will walk you through the best I can how to get it sewn together so that it's easy for you. So, first step is the head pieces. So, this is actually one of the easier pieces. So, we're just going to do this one. We're going to skip these 2 because this would be the head mane if we put that in, but we are not doing that. So, we're going to take our pattern pieces, our head piece, our other head piece. Okay, so all you're going to do is take your 2 head pieces, place them together, and then this shows us that we are just going to stitch across here. So just a stitch through here. So let me get under the machine and I'll show you what it looks like under the machine. Okay, so for the eyes, make sure you cut out 2 little pieces of interfacing. Be really small, we don't need to be big. And then you're just gonna place them on the piece that we just stitched. And then you're gonna iron it. So I like to place a piece of fabric over it before I iron it so that it doesn't get stuck to the iron. So I placed my piece there, and then I have my iron. I'm just gonna place my iron on it so it gets on there and it sticks nice for me. And if I take this off, you can see that that's fused on there nicely. Do the same thing for the other side. Place my piece over and iron it. Okay, so I have the interfacing on both sides there. Now I can pick out my eyes. So let me pick out which color eyes I want. I'm gonna go with these silvery looking ones here. Okay. So I got those, and then I need to pull out a piece of the back. So I need 2 of these. There's 2. Okay, so all you're going to do is open your fabric up, and you're going to cut, make sure you don't cut through both, just a little slit, just really small. And then, because this is the wrong side, you're going to put your eye on the inside and push it through the hole you just cut. And then take the backing and push that on there nice and tight so it doesn't pull through your fabric. So it'll look like that on the one side and that on the other side. So now he's got some eyes. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is sew on our remaining headpieces. So we're going to take the one headpiece and the one that we just added the eyes to, and we're going to open it up. We're going to take the piece, and we're going to line it up the best we can on one side and pin it in place. So let me get it pinned in here. Okay, so you can see I lined it up. I didn't pin it over here because we're not sewing this. We're only sewing here, just like we did on the top here. So let me get that under the machine. Okay. So with this one, we want to make sure that we don't sew all the way because we want to leave room for us to stuff it. So I'm going to start about here. Put it under. We have the under part of the head, and we left a little spot open there. So then we're going to take our last headpiece and we're going to open it up, and now we're going to pin it to the remaining side as best we can. And then again, we're just going to sew from here around, and we're going to stop, say, about here again. Okay, so now let's stick it under our machine again, making sure we leave a space. Okay, so now we have all of our headpieces sewn. So we're going to take these 2 that we just sewn, we're going to line these up, and these we're going to just sew from here all the way around. So let me get that pinned, and we'll get that sewn. Okay, so after we've gotten them all sewn, we're just going to inside him out. So there's his little head, and then you're going to stuff the opening. So let me get him stuffed, and then I'll come back. Okay, so that's what the head looks like, all stuffed. So you're going to want to stitch this close with some hand stitching. Now, I hate hand stitching, but fortunately I had to do it. So let me get that hand stitched and I'll come back with it. Okay, so he's all stitched up. My hand stitching is atrocious, I know, but he's stitched. So let's move on to the next part. Okay, so if you choose to put the horns on, you can. You'll need to clip out 4 of these pieces. And I've already stitched them to save on time for the video. But what you do is you're just going to completely stitch all the way around. And then we're going to clip a piece so that we can actually stuff it. So you want to make sure you place your horns facing down where the ends are out. Otherwise, we'll have 2 of the same side and we don't want that. So we're going to take our scissors and we're just going to clip a really small hole here in one layer of the fabric. So you're going to want to try to like maneuver it a bit so that you don't clip through 2 sides. See how I have it like that? And I'm just going to clip a little hole. And now I can stick my scissors in there and cut out just a little circle. And that's where you're going to stuff it from. So do the same thing with the other side. And then inside them out. So you have right sides out. Okay, so after you've stitched around and flipped them inside out and stuffed them, you'll have 2 little horns like this. And then you're going to take your head, and you're just going to hand stitch them on there. You can use a ladder stitch. I'll link a video in the descriptions if you don't know how to do a ladder stitch. It's the same thing I did here, so mine's going to look messy. Don't feel bad if you can't do it. It's not fun to have to hand stitch. So let me get those stitched on there, and then we'll move on. Okay, there's my horns. And you can't really see the stitching too much, so I actually did a pretty good job this time around for the horns, at least. Now that we finished the head, we're going to start working on our body pieces. So we're going to need to get number 7 and 5 and 3, and we're going to have to cut little holes in them and so we can attach them. So make sure you flip one of the body pieces over so that you have 2 separate pieces and not 2 the same side. And if you grab your leg pieces, it shows you on them where to cut. So it shows you on here to cut a little slit. So I'll show you what that looks like, and then we will get to stitching these on. And I also want to let you know that if you are doing the 2 different color legs like I did, the color you want on the inside is going to be the color you start with sewing. So I want to have my yellow pieces on the inside of the leg. So I'm going to attach that piece first. So let me show you what it looks like to cut these and get these sewn on. Okay, so I just started by placing the little piece here over my fabric so I know where to cut. So I know that I have to cut a little slit here. So I'm going to just pinch it and just cut a little slit there. And then I can stick my scissors in it again and just cut out a really small circle. Because we have to push the legs through this after we sew them on. Take our pieces, we're going to line these up on here again, and then you're going to take your leg piece and match it like that so that the lines line up, and then just take your piece and place it on there, and then you can remove your piece, because now we know the positioning we need our leg in, and then just line up the holes. And then we're going to pin it in place. Do the same thing with the other side. then all you're going to do is you're just going to stitch around the hole. So let me get under the machine and we'll get that done. I don't know how well you can see the stitching, but I did stitch around. So now what I want to do is I just want to clip in here to make it easier to write it out. So just clip every few centimeters, but don't cut your stitching. And the same thing with the other side. So now you're just going to take your leg and you're just going to push it right through the hole. And if you have an iron, now is a good time to use it to get this flattened out. So pull it and try to just maneuver it the best you can for both sides. And then I like to get it ironed so that it sits flat for me. So let me get it ironed and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so I got them pulled through. I got them ironed. You will have to like kind of just mess around with them to get them ironed the best you can or pulled out the best you can because they are a little pain in the butt. And then you're going to take your other piece and you're going to line it up, pin it, and stitch all the way around, making sure not to stitch over the body piece. So you're going to have to move it around under the machine to only stitch these two pieces, not to this piece. You're going to do that for both of these, and then we'll move on. So I'll show you what it looks like under the machine. So now we have our other piece sewn on, so we're going to just push it through that hole that we had made in the body piece. So go ahead and get that insided out, and then we're going to work on the other half of him. Okay, so we have our one half done, and we're going to move on to our other half. So we're going to put this one to the side. We're going to grab our other little feet and our dragon. Now this one we want to make sure we flip to the opposite side. So instead of his head facing this way, we want his head facing this way so that we have, when we go to put him together, he'll be right side together so that we won't have two of the same sides. So for this piece, you're going to do exactly the same thing you did with that piece. So you're going to cut your holes, line up your feet, sew your feet on. So I'm going to get that done, and then we'll come back and work on the next step. Okay, so I have my two pieces now, and now you can see since I flipped the one, they'll go right sides together. So the next thing we have to do, according to the instructions, is stitch from here all the way up here into the top of the neck. But I'm not going to follow that exactly because it makes it harder to stuff it. So I'm going to go from here to the middle of the back, stop with a back stitch, and then start back here and then go around. That way, when I'm ready to turn inside out, I can stuff it there and then just slip stitch it there versus having to stuff it through the neck, and the neck gets real wobbly because there's not enough stuffing. So let me do that and then we'll continue. Okay, so now we've left a hole. We've stitched all the way around so we can stuff that later. The next thing we're going to do now is attach the belly. So you want to make sure you fold your legs up in there because you don't want to get those caught when you're adding the belly section on. So you take your belly piece, and you want it inside out, and you're going to line it up in here, and then pin it to one side, and line it up all the way to the neck on just one side. So let me get that pinned, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll get it stitched. Okay, so we got the belly all on, so now we're just going to inside him out.
Bring it around now. Ladies. Bring it around now. Ladies.
Now we have our dragon all right-sided out, so we want to stuff him. So because I left my opening back here, it'll be a lot easier to stuff the tail and the legs. So once I have him stuffed enough to where his neck is nice and thick, but not too much, I'll stitch the head on, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So I have them stuffed. Now the next thing I want to do is attach the head. I didn't fully stuff them. I'm going to leave this open so I can add more. But you just want to fold this over so that you don't have any raw edges sticking out. And if you want, you can iron it. I will iron mine just so that it's easier to work with. And then once you have it folded over, you're just going to stitch the head onto it. So let me get that on there. Okay, so I got the head stitched on now. So because I left that hole in the back, I was able to push more of the stuffing into the neck area, so I didn't have like wobbly neck. So now all I have to do is slip stitch this closed. So let me get that done. Okay, so here he is. He's all completed. I hope this video helped you if you were struggling at all. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I will take a look and see if I can help. But yeah, if you like the video, give it a like, let me know. And if you want to see me do any future sew-alongs, let me know. Thanks.